Hey everybody, my name's Dane Fredrickson. I'm a B2B video expert, and I'm here today with Todd Fairbairn, who is from EmotiveMobility, and we're here to talk about what's going on in this crazy world of marketing and AI and all the things we need to be thinking about right now. So, Todd, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what do you think that we need to know about you?
Yeah, shoot. Well, Dane, thank you so much for having me on. Todd Fairbairn. I am head of marketing and brand at Emotive Mobility. And, it's a really interesting time to be in our space, right? B2B marketing is always a challenge. You got to cut through the noise, but I think you throw in AI and everything that's happening in this space and for brand folks, usually smaller teams, you got to leverage AI, but it's also how do you do it in a sense that's authentic, that's true to the brand, and is not just what's the word I'm looking for? Just a bunch
Slop.
of AI slop.
Right.
Yes, in the space. So
Yeah.
it's it's a great tool, but I think with, you got to be responsible with it.
Yeah. It is it's such a great moment to be having a conversation about the marketing end of it because AI just took all the air out of the room and we all went nuts last year and we made all this slop and that was the
Yeah.
year the word of the year is slop and so now I'm seeing the pendulum swinging back the other way. They're hiring all these content writers to be human again and so there's finally some appreciation for the work that we do and it has real value beyond just like hitting some numbers with volume. And so when that meets the actual practice, like how are you now like using that or not using that? Like what's the top of mind for you there?
Yeah, we use it a fair bit, like in full transparency. It's not our North Star, nor does it help us get there, but we use it to kind of gut check a lot of our activities, right?
Mm-hmm.
My marketing team now, I mentioned we're a smaller B2B in the automotive space, and so it's myself. I have a marketing performance and operations manager who leads a lot of the campaigns and activities, and then I have a content creator who she's just diving into the material now. AI for us, we use it when we're looking at, just keeping our website content fresh, looking at what others in the space are doing, as well as, guiding us to a degree on blog posts, thinking about keywords and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to, quite frankly, Dane, see how we can use tools from a video content perspective. That is real intriguing for a smaller group. How can we leverage, and I'm thinking of the name of the tool in the space right now. Um, how
Maybe
can
just
we kind of get more with less, right? But
yeah.
then use it with, the diligence and the responsibility of remaining true to the brand. I think you can look as a marketer, you'll see a lot of content that's pushed out there, and folks have started to eliminate M dashes and tells like
Right.
that, but you still see it out there a little bit.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is one of my goals with this interview series is always to take the chocolate and the peanut butter and put them together. So like me as a video expert, you as a marketer with your expertise in your niche, for me, I'm always advocating for exactly what you're talking about is like leveraging video in a authentic way, but also still lets you use AI in the right ways, the responsible ways that don't dilute your brand with slop and things like that. So like I think the best term for it I've heard is video first content marketing, right? It's like
Mhm.
the idea is that video, because it contains all other formats, is the perfect raw ingredient for a content system that's like repeatable and ongoing. Imagine an interview like this chopped up into shorts, take the transcript, use that for written. And like if you plan that out ahead of time rather than repurposing as an afterthought, like, oh, maybe we should use this webinar again or something like which seems to be how people think about repurposing. I call it pre-purposing. So the idea of planning ahead, imagine that, of actually building a system that you can do that's kind of low lift. And I think one of the things that really helps is everyone's too busy. And so like they don't want to do this stuff, but really SMEs don't shouldn't probably be writing articles, especially in this day and age. Like an interview like this is a great way to extract that on brand thought leadership, like knowledge, and then repurpose it across all those channels. So, like, that's the big idea that I always advocate for. And
Yeah.
then there's like this idea that there's so many different levels of quality that are acceptable now. And I use the word quality loosely because a scrappy iPhone video or a webcam video like this has value if the content in there isn't value and it's used in the right way in the right place. Yes, of course, the polished and perfect brand videos and the really cool Super Bowl commercials, we like that too. There's a place for that. But post pandemic, social media world, there's now this other lane that I think B2B is now just waking up to. Oh, wait, are we allowed to do that? Like, is it okay if I use my phone and walk down the street? And like, I saw this guy in fintech. He goes for runs. Like he's out there running at night with the light on and he's just talking. So like there's a place for all of it. So that's the sort of like the big ideas I'd like to share. I don't know to what extent those hold water for you or they feel doable with a small team. I'd love to get your perspective because my whole mission is to try and like help people do this.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's I love where your head's at, Dane. And I think one of the things that you know, you typically think about these ideas, these concepts, and sometimes you never have enough time to tackle them. So, from your perspective, it's almost like a grand campaign where you have that, longer form of content, whether it is a white paper, whether it's a blog, and you break it down and leverage it to a multitude of different facets. That was a big driving principle while I was at Ford Motor Company, and we tackled a lot of our marketing communications. And what I think is so fun, and you mentioned the guy running and creating his own content. I think for so long, B2B has been kind of rigid, no personality. I think there's a little bit of a hesitancy for brands, especially because they're just one phase in a bigger, end product to kind of step
Mhm.
out and be their own identity. There's a lot of hiding behind numbers, which are great if they're great performance metrics, but it's the people, it's the humanity, I think, that makes a huge impact as a brand differentiator. And it's one of the
Yeah.
things that we've been looking at doing. How might we get the individuals on an assembly line at one of our facilities to, you know, I don't know how we do it, but like have a TikTok, right? Where
Mhm.
you're capturing the actual pieces coming together in an activity that 99% of people who drive a car don't think about, right? But there's so many pieces along that automotive supply chain that companies like ours and numerous others touch. And it's like, it's really cool
Yeah.
moments captured in a quick kind of succession with humanity woven in. And I think that's like the biggest opportunity for not just where we are at Emotive Mobility, but
Yeah.
for a lot of other brands in our space to just flex about the people who are doing the work,
Yeah.
the individuals who are contributing to the betterment of the product.
Yeah, I think everyone's sitting on a content gold mine because you do have the subject matter experts, the people doing the work, and like you're right, there's this idea of like hiding behind white papers and ghostwriting and like you prim and proper and all buttoned up and like that stuff matters too, but like the marketplace has sort of started to demand something different than I think a lot of execs and people who want to keep that buttoned up perspective. They're sort of wanting you and asking you to take off the mask and be real. And it
Yeah.
makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Like, I've been, 30 years in my industry. I reinventing myself now is a lift, especially like when you're busy, right? So it might
Oh
be
yeah.
asking too much for a lot of people. And so what I'm getting closer to now is finding ways that people can say yes, because this grand master plan strategy of a content thing, it just sounds too big, too hard, whatever. But like, how can we start small? And so like I keep trying to find ways to like, let's give this like a pilot project name, or let's call this a test or something like that. And again, a test sounds like it's just like a waste of time or academic, but like making it so like the bar is low and you can kind of get some reps in because a lot of people don't want to be
Hmm.
on camera. And so like if you can make that less scary for them, like, hey, let's just record something and not post it. We'll look at it, we'll talk about it, and then maybe we'll take another swing at the bat. Like I think those are
Yeah.
the things that are helping to get people out of their way. And I don't know if you have done similar things with other types of content. I'd be kind of curious to hear what you say about like, does that feel like the right approach, or are they looking to rather swing big and solve all my problems at once kind of thing?
I think maybe there's paths forward in either of those directions. Like I'm of the opinion, right? And an opinion of one. The beauty of my job and my org is I get to try different things,
Mhm.
right? We've people in my space hadn't done it before, right? Doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's right. It's like, well, you don't really know until you give it a whirl. And I think to your point, making this a piece of like this grandiose annual strategic marketing plan that's going to deliver X results by 2030. That just sounds like daunting and stuffy
Homework.
and not fun, right? I think
Yeah.
everybody who's in marketing and the branding space, whether you're creating content or a graphic designer or what have you, we're in it for the reason to kind of like enjoy, build things that we love to see and that
Mhm.
we can enjoy, right? And you look around to see who's raising the bar, who's trying different things. And I think for me, I just love, little incremental, like, let's try this. We flirted with the idea of TikTok while at CES. That was interesting. It probably helps from a bringing talent in perspective, but I
Mhm.
don't know how, we're structured to support that in perpetuity, right? But
Mhm.
again, it was, when we were at CES, that's where the audience was and where they showed up. So it'd be prudent for us to be there. But it's like, how do you weave that into the strategy? And it's like, well, we didn't have to have a plan for that because it
Mhm.
was a roll of the dice in that instance to see kind of where it netted out and the results it led to. So, I'm of the belief that you have to kind of, give things the opportunity before you can automatically dismiss them or say, no, thanks, that's not
Mhm.
us. It could be everything that we've known has kind of flipped on its head in the past 10 years. And 10 years before that, same thing, right? I think
Yeah.
that's the beauty of that's the beauty and the frustration of our space a little bit.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was started getting curious about like how are you selling this sort of like we got to just try it mentality to people that need ROI, they need numbers, results, and be like, hey, this is hard to track, and we're not going to know anything until we do something. How do you kind
Yeah.
of balance that the need to measure with the need to test things you can't?
It is, I mean, it is a balancing act, and I think that's the most stressful part. What we do is, we'll do little pilot type programs where it's a piece of a smaller underlying budget. So we can let, the core piece of the business kind of carry the mail where
Mm-hmm.
we can see what kind of reaction place or reactionary activities these little pilots cause, right? And if you kind of string a couple together over a couple of quarters, then you might be on to something.
Yeah.
And then it's easier to convince leadership or the executive leadership team that this is maybe something we try a little bit more kind of all in to a degree in subsequent
Mm-hmm.
years, right? I wish there was the ability to have kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and I wish I had, piles of money to try different things. But then, what would be the fun in that, right? So it's these incremental, anecdotal little tries to see
Mm-hmm.
where we might be able to connect. And if we're onto something, then we'll just keep trying to kind of push until we kind of maybe crack the egg or maybe we got to
Yeah.
start from scratch.
So, Todd, thanks for joining me today. It was a great conversation, and good luck out there.
Absolutely, Dane. Appreciate the time and cheers.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.